Japan is working closely with G7 nations to ensure effective economic sanctions against Russia and its central bank following Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Japan's Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi says Tokyo is also considering imposing sanctions against some individuals in Belarus, a key staging area for the Russian invasion. Moscow's political and economic isolation deepened as its forces met stiff resistance in the Ukrainian capital and other cities in the biggest assault on a European state since World War II. Well, for more on the SWIFT system, I'm joined by Jayant Menon. He's from the Iseas-Yusof Ishak Institute. Thank you very much, Jay, for joining us. Now, just outline for us how the SWIFT system works and how it aids in things like trade.
Sure. Nice to be with you. I guess the thing to remember about SWIFT is that it's basically arrangement between banks. So it's there essentially to increase the security of interbank transfers amongst participating banks. It's not actually the plumbing system. It's basically the oil that makes the whole system operate more efficiently, more quickly, and with minimum amount of cost.
Understood.
So we are moving money around before SWIFT, and so we will continue to do it even after SWIFT, but it makes it a lot easier, a lot faster, a lot cheaper.
So we've heard that limitations have been placed on some banking institution in the use of the SWIFT system in relation to Russia. What sort of impacts is that going to have, or having already?
It's still a bit early to be sure, because we still don't know which banks exactly and how many other countries would come in. You've just had a lead-in with Japan saying it would want to participate. So far, it's mainly been UK, EU, Canada, US. So other countries will come in, which will increase the veracity of the sanctions. So it will have an impact over time. The key thing is whether, the banks that deal with the energy trade, which is what Russia is heavily dependent on, gets included in the web. We know that Europe is still a bit hesitant about this because, they will suffer the consequences of it. So we'll have to wait and see how wide the net is and how many more countries come in to make this work, and what new ways Russia finds to circumvent the sanctions as well, maybe working with China.
Yeah, Jay, just elaborate for us, if you will, about how the implementation of a full ban of the SWIFT system against Russia would also create unintended consequences for other nations, like Germany, for example.
Right. I guess the good starting point is to remind ourselves that, trade is mutually beneficial. It may not be fair always, but it's certainly mutually beneficial. And so the types of goods that Russia supplies are commodities for which the supply worldwide is the determining factor, with oil and gas and so on. It's not like putting sanctions on the US-China trade, for instance, which is basically mostly manufactured goods and services. That is designed to get people to switch country suppliers. Here, there's no choice. So Germany or German consumers, for instance, will end up bearing some of the costs of these sorts of measures through higher prices, because these the prices of these essential energy inputs will certainly go up when it becomes much more difficult to trade in them.
It's a very tricky situation indeed, but lastly, it's really to elicit your opinion more than anything else. Do you think it would be quite dangerous to have a full ban on Russia in terms of its ability to trade and shift money around, because you isolate it more, and we're hearing that Vladimir Putin is already talking about putting his nuclear forces on high alert?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. It's a worrying one. It's even, scary to think about how this might play out if he finds himself with his back against the wall. And we don't want to really be in a situation where, if he starts thinking about the nuclear option, for instance, which is what has been discussed today, I don't think the economic sanctions will drive him to that point. I guess it depends on how other reactions evolve. But it's something to certainly be wary of. I think what we will find is that the real cost of this will be on the Russian people and all the consumers as well around the world that rely upon Russian exports. So it'll be the third parties that are not directly involved, most of whom would not support this invasion, and they will bear the price. And that's going to be the cost more than, these sanctions pushing Putin to do something completely unimaginable. I don't think that will be the impact. It'll be the indirect effect on unintended, impacts on people on the sidelines of this horrible dispute.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's always that collateral damage. Thank you very much, Jayant, for your time. That was Jayant Menon. He's from the Iseas-Yusof Ishak Institute.